I am a noble consort who can hear the emperor's inner thoughts. In my past life, I followed his unspoken desires and fulfilled his every wish. I thought I would be promoted to higher ranks, maybe even become the empress. Turns out, the emperor was a real piece of work. He refused the toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. He fell in love with a fisherman's daughter outside the palace. Defying all opposition, he made her his empress, fearing I might harm his beloved empress. He had me executed in advance, reborn in this life. I can now hear the emperor's innermost thoughts. I leaked the information to my sworn enemies. His Majesty breaks out in hives whenever he eats lychees. His Majesty intends to deal with your family. His Majesty can't stop praising your sister. Imperial Consort Anne and Imperial Consort Shu were utterly shocked. Elder sister, what should I do? I beg you to think of a solution quickly. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I nearly lost myself in this repeated calling of elder sister. In my past life, they all called me wretched woman. I wasn't idle either, calling them sluts, idiots, shrews, fools. But that was in my past life. In this life, they're my beloved sisters. I looked at Consort Anne with a smile and said, "What's the hurry? This mountain dweller has her own clever plan, but it depends on whether you can steal your heart." Consort Anne hastily bowed. "My sister has just come of age and was betrothed long ago. I'm already trapped in this deep palace. I absolutely cannot let her fall into this too. I beg for your mercy, elder sister. From now on, I will follow your lead without question." Consort Anne hadn't believed me at first. Not until I had her pretend to leave the banquet, only to secretly return and witness the emperor's gaze lingering shamelessly on her tender, budding sister. Consort Anne gnashed her teeth in fury. She had raised her younger sister with her own hands, their bond as deep as the sea. In my past life, I followed the emperor's unspoken thoughts to handle another matter and missed this one. By the time I heard the emperor's silent admiration for Consort Anne's sister, she had already entered the palace. This matter infuriated me to the point of gnashing my teeth, making me believe Consort Anne had deliberately arranged it, leading to a huge conflict between us. But in this lifetime, having heard the emperor's inner thoughts, not only did I refuse to carry out any of his wishes, I deliberately did the opposite to vex him further. Thus, I didn't miss a single one of the emperor's secret intentions. Turns out, he had long fancied Consort Anne's younger sister. Ah, what a lecherous fellow. I did her a favor by informing Consort Anne about the matter. Consort Anne gritted her teeth and said, "As long as it can save my sister, I'd go through fire and water without hesitation." I beckoned her to come closer and whispered a few words in her ear. Concubine Anne suddenly grasped my hand and exclaimed excitedly, "Thank you for your brilliant plan, sister. Whether this succeeds or not, I will forever remember your great kindness." Concubine Anne hurried away. She led her younger sister to delicately present a bowl of soup to the emperor. The emperor was overjoyed and happily drank the soup. Then, her eyes became so swollen they turned into slits. The imperial physician barely managed to save her. Consort Anne then led her younger sister, weeping and wailing, to attend to the emperor's illness. As a result, a gust of fragrant breeze wafted into the emperor's face, making his hives even worse. The emperor pointed at Consort Anne and her sister. "You two, get out of my sight." Consort Anne left heartbroken, sending her sister out of the palace that very night. She then urgently informed her parents to quickly arrange her sister's marriage. When the emperor's hives subsided and he recalled the matter, the joyous news of Consort Anne's younger sister had already spread beyond the palace walls. The emperor fell silent, likely recalling how both times he met Consort Anne's younger sister, he had broken out in hives, and so suppressed his thoughts. "It seems our birth signs are incompatible, destined to be apart." I curled my lips in a scornful laugh. In my past life, he brought my younger sister and Faye into the palace. Only to grow tired of her after a few nights, the palace gained another pitiful soul, yet he wandered free and unfettered, falling in love with someone new. "Pa, you lecher." A few months later, Consort Anne's younger sister got married. Consort Anne was completely at ease. She came to thank me. I dismissed all attendants. Suddenly, she knelt down and performed a deep ceremonial bow. "Sister, I will never forget your life-saving grace. From now on, I am yours. Whatever you say, I shall do." I hurriedly helped her up. I felt an inexplicable touch of emotion in my heart. In my past life, I had enemies everywhere in my pursuit of becoming the empress. Yet when I died, it was those very enemies who came to see me off. "The one who understands me best is my enemy," they pleaded before the emperor, saying I would never harm that fisherman's daughter. Though the noble consort's words may be sharp and acerbic, her heart is actually kind and generous. Though the noble consort may look down on others, her actions are actually open and aboveboard. Though the noble consort is skilled at pleasing the emperor, she is not servile. Though the noble consort loves to compete for favor, she would never resort to underhanded schemes. The noble consort, enough. Stop talking, just let me die. The emperor hesitated, but the fisher girl's eyes brimmed with tears as she said softly, I cannot contend with these palace schemers, nor do I deign to try. Li Shen, if you cannot clear the obstacles for me, then don't confine me within these palace walls. The world is vast, where couldn't I go? It was these very words that solidified the emperor's resolve. He bestowed poisoned wine upon me and banished the other concubines to Buddhist temples. The vast imperial palace now held only the two of them, one lifetime, one pair. In this life, I will make sure they die horribly. I helped Consorten to her feet, feeling both awkward and strangely proud. Well, the infamily's daughter, turns out she can be bought with just a little favor. Consorten clenched her fists in anger. Zhao Jiufeng, that venomous tongue of yours will be the death of you one day. I thank you for your little Sihei incense, you're my benefactor, and I won't hold anything you say against you. After all, I'll remember your kindness. The Sihei incense was made from materials like lychee shells, sugarcane pulp, dried tangerine peel, and pear skins. Consorten increased the proportion of lychee shells to create a new version of the small Sihei incense. She and her sister sewed the small Sihei incense into sachets, wearing them close to their bodies. They even stuffed fragrant powder into hairpins, sleeve beads, and shoe ornaments, even adding lychee juice to their lip balm. The two nearly succeeded in killing the emperor. However, the emperor cannot die just yet. No one in the palace is pregnant. It has been 3 years since the emperor ascended the throne, yet not a single person in the palace has borne his child. I suspect the emperor is impotent. But when I died, that fisher girl was clearly pregnant. Could it be that none of us concubines in the palace are capable? I want to try again. Consorten exchanged a few words with me. We just don't get along. A few words and we're at each other's throats again. Perhaps, maybe, probably, she and I are destined to be sworn enemies. Consorten finally took her leave through gritted teeth. With regret in my heart, I called after her retreating figure, an Eru. If you truly want to repay me, then live well. In just 6 months, the emperor will travel incognito and meet that fisher girl. With so many concubines in the palace, they spend their days jealous and bickering, cursing each other, yet I'm not afraid of them at all. But that powerless fisher girl, she terrifies me. With just a casual remark, she could stir the emperor's emotions. I wish there were more familiar faces in the palace, it would make me feel a little safer. Consorten stopped in her tracks, turned around, and looked at me with a complicated expression. Don't worry, for your sake, I'll make sure to live well. I feel relieved. The infamily's daughter truly has admirable spirit. I still frequently visit the emperor, for no other reason than to see if I can conceive. When I get pregnant, he'll be useless. When the time comes, the emperor was very pleased. My features are striking and dazzling, and the gaudy, intricate floral patterns I wear only enhance my resplendent beauty. The emperor once said that seeing me made him feel the nation was prosperous and the people at peace, the seas calm and the rivers clear. Yet later, he chose a plain-faced fisher girl who preferred to wear light, simple clothing. Truly, a man's words are as deceitful as a ghost's. Trusting him would be disastrous. You can't even trust his inner thoughts, because self-awareness isn't something everyone possesses. Not even the emperor himself knows what he truly wants. If he's destined to belong to someone else, then he'd better put all his effort into pleasing this woman right here. I'll make him pale at the mere mention of sex. I lured the emperor into bed several times. After we finished, the emperor was so exhausted he wished for death. The imperial consort is truly a temptress. I might just perish between her thighs. I'm truly spent today. I hope she has the sense not to tease me further. How could that be possible? I have my ways. I'll make sure he's drained of all strength. The scented powder from my fingertips scattered bit by bit across the emperor's face, body, and bed, with a sudden turn. He pinned me beneath him once more. At last, I too grew weary. The emperor's drowsy eyes could barely stay open. I lay in the emperor's arms, tracing circles on his chest to tease him. I said in a coquettish voice, Your Majesty, my birthday is coming soon. What gift will you give me? What do you want? What a dull woman, always demanding things. My fists clenched. In my past life, I took his words to heart, restraining myself and acting indifferent, yet he accused me of pretending. When I wasn't putting on an act, he still didn't give me anything either. In this lifetime, no matter what he thinks, I only care about what I think. I said in a coquettish tone, Your Majesty, since I've served you so well, Could you grant me a favor? What do you want? She's always wanted to be empress. But has she ever considered whether she's worthy? His fists clenched tightly again. Your Majesty Tilda, this humble concubine has served in the palace for many years. I beg your permission to return home and see my parents. Tilda, her voice curled through several melodic twists. I'm even sick of myself. The emperor was momentarily stunned, somewhat slow to react. It seems I've wronged her. She turns out to be homesick. Granted, this is a trivial matter. Do you have any other requests? His meaningful look made everything clear to me. That despicable man, he wanted to lure me into voicing my desires, yet if I truly spoke them aloud, he'd act as though he had me in his grasp, only to turn around and scorn me, belittle me. He's got it all figured out. Your Majesty, this humble concubine desires nothing more. I did once dream of becoming empress, but upon reflection, how could someone like me be worthy? Being an imperial noble consort is already the greatest fortune I could hope for. Your Majesty, please don't lead this humble concubine into wild fantasies. If I were to truly entertain such thoughts and then be scolded by you, how terribly unfair that would be to me. Though come to think of it, Your Majesty isn't that kind of shameless person, so this humble concubine wouldn't dare entertain improper thoughts. Your Majesty, sleep now, your consort is so tired. The emperor was speechless. His inner voice chattered on, all meaningless nonsense. Does she know something? Was she just sarcastically insulting me? Probably not. She wouldn't dare. It seems I've spoiled her too much with my favor, letting her develop bad habits. Tomorrow, I'll summon Consort Shu. Oh, got it. Tomorrow I'll give Consort Shu some potent medicine too. However, Consort Shu doesn't quite trust me. She eyed me suspiciously. You'd be this kind-hearted. I yawned lazily and said, well, not entirely for your sake. Some time ago, His Majesty nearly took a new consort into the palace. Noble Consort Shu straightened her expression. She had also heard some rumors about Noble Consort An's younger sister. Had His Majesty not suddenly developed hives, it might have truly come to pass. What does this have to do with me? I sneered. What does it have to do with you? Everything. Clearly, we haven't served His Majesty well enough, giving him time for idle thoughts. Shouldn't we redouble our efforts in attending to the Emperor? Yesterday I worked hard to exhaust His Majesty. So today you'd better perform well and not disappoint me. Consort Shu blushed crimson, standing up to let out a light scoff. How can you be so vulgar? Consort Shu was a scholar, unlike me, who excelled at neither literature nor martial arts. In her past life, her father and brothers were imprisoned by the Emperor. All she could do was kneel before the Emperor's palace, holding the late Emperor's decree praising her family's loyalty, begging His Majesty to show mercy, insisting that her father and brothers could never have plotted rebellion. Alas, the Emperor refused to see her. After her father and brothers died, she starved herself to death to prove their innocence. I struggled so hard to climb up, partly because I feared being disposed of at the Emperor's whim. At least the Empress was the Emperor's wife. Arbitrarily disposing of one's wife would surely invite censure from the court. I scoffed. In the 3 years we've been in the palace, not a single one of us has borne His Majesty's child. Don't you want to know whether it's His Majesty who's incapable, or us? Moreover, your family is about to face great calamity. If you were to become pregnant, it might just save your father and brother's lives. The noble consort was utterly shocked. What did you say? Only then did I act as if I'd let slip too much, hastily covering my mouth. I didn't say anything. You said it. I did not. Consort Shu, don't try to slander me. I'm leaving now. I hurriedly slipped away. Consort Shu was stubbornly single-minded. If I told her directly that the Emperor intended to punish her father and brothers, she would never believe me. But if she became suspicious and investigated on her own, she would surely believe it. Sure enough, that very night, the maidservant reported that the Consort Shu's palace had called for water several times, and they didn't retire until the 3rd watch. Hearing this, I was furious. I had only managed to keep His Majesty until the 2nd watch. The noble consort actually battled with His Majesty until the 3rd watch of the night. Could her techniques and tricks be more varied than mine? I actually lost to the noble consort. How infuriating. The noble consort monopolized His Majesty's attention for several days in a row, the height of favor and glory that draws envious eyes. Several days later, she came to my palace with a solemn expression. After I dismissed all attendants, she suddenly collapsed into a chair as if all strength had drained from her body. Her face was pale, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Sister, you were right. His Majesty truly intends to move against my father and brother. He genuinely harbors murderous intent toward them. But why? My father and brother have been utterly loyal. and our Song family has served faithfully for generations. I quickly interrupted her. Stop, 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 don't say another word. I could recite every word that followed from her. My ancestors accompanied His Majesty in conquering the realm. My grandfather was the Grand Tutor to the late Emperor, and his memorial tablet is enshrined in the Imperial Ancestral Temple. My father was the late Emperor's study companion, serving by his side for decades. In her previous life, the noble consort had repeated these words hundreds of times with a voice hoarse from pleading, yet not once did they move the Emperor's heart. I said, "Have you ever considered that they might find your family an obstacle?" The noble consort stood up agitatedly. But my father was utterly loyal. He single-handedly supported His Majesty's ascension to the throne. The first thing a healed cripple discards is his crutch. The noble consort collapsed helplessly into her chair, weeping bitterly. What should I do? Would it help if I just died? Your death wouldn't change anything. His Majesty enjoys bedding you and slaughtering your family for entirely different reasons. The noble consort choked on her sobs, raising her reddened eyes to glare at me. What do you suggest we do then? I sighed and said, it depends on whether your father and brothers value their lives or their official positions more. The noble consort understood immediately and fell into deep thought. I've told you, my father and brother might not believe me. I took a bracelet off my wrist and handed it to her. Take this, have your father bring the bracelet to mine, and my father will tell him everything. That damn Emperor is such a scoundrel. The task of investigating Consort Shu's father and brothers was assigned to my father, although he found nothing. The mere mention of this matter would chill their hearts. These great Confucian scholars most emphasize giving one's all until death. Consort Shu's father and brothers wanted to be Zhuge Liang. Unfortunately, the Emperor was no Liu Bei. They will come to recognize reality sooner or later. Once they see clearly, that will be the moment their hopes die. Consort Shu hurried off with the items. Before leaving, she suddenly stopped, hesitated for a moment, and told me, "Sister, you needn't waste your efforts on His Majesty anymore." For 3 days straight, I secretly took His Majesty's pulse and also examined. Down there, he, I'm afraid, is incapable. I felt as if struck by lightning. Is he impotent? Impotent? Then how did he get that fisherman's daughter pregnant? I feel like I've stumbled upon some incredible truth. Are you serious? I studied under a renowned physician since childhood and accompanied my teacher on medical visits. I only pretended to know nothing after entering the palace. What I've seen cannot be wrong. I gnashed my teeth in anger. Damn Emperor, he's been sleeping with me for nothing all these days. Does His Majesty know about this? Consort Shu hesitated. I suppose not. The imperial physicians have never dared to speak definitively, especially on matters concerning His Majesty's heirs. They wouldn't say a word. That's good, I've made up my mind. I must get pregnant. A fisherman's daughter could cuckold the Emperor, so can I. I was preparing for the homecoming arrangements. The virtuous consort was also busy with preparations. The next day, news came from outside the palace that the Grand Tutor had fallen from his carriage and broken his leg. The virtuous consort's eldest brother had injured his arm while trying to protect their father. The Grand Tutor was advanced in years, and his leg injury had aggravated old ailments. He was already nearing his end. The elderly always hold dear the notion of returning to their roots like falling leaves. The eldest brother of the noble consort immediately requested to resign from his official post to escort their father back to their hometown. The Emperor approved it. The day I left the palace to visit my family, Consort Shu came to see me off, silently shedding tears. I envy you, sister, for being able to return home once, but I couldn't even see my parents one last time. From now on, I have no family left in the capital. My heart softened a little, and I patted her head. Her father and brothers would likely never return to the capital after this departure. Compared to power, life is still more important, I whispered. Then why not create a family member for yourself? She was utterly astonished. I stared at her intently. The chance comes but once. Suddenly, she grasped my hand. Sister, I beg your help, since he's shown no mercy. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Wait for my good news. I left the palace to return home for a visit. Though called a homecoming, I was under constant surveillance the entire time. Only during the brief moments of paying respects to my mother and sisters could we exchange private words. Mother tightly gripped my hand and said with hatred, Zhao Jufeng, you've got some nerve. Do you want to get our whole family killed? I only said one sentence. The Emperor is useless. Relying on him, I'll never have children in this lifetime. Mother's hand loosened. Damn that Zhao Shen. Her eyes turned red. My eyes also turned red. The fate of Consort Shu's family serves as a warning. The Emperor doesn't know he's infertile. This child might save our entire family. if it can't, then we'll all die together. Mother made up her mind and gently patted my hand. Don't worry, your mother is here. I'll go prepare it right away. Prepare 3 portions for me. Mother nearly stumbled, I declared boldly. There are still a few sisters in my palace. You still care about sisterly bonds in such matters. This is the tradition of our Zhao family. When there's something good, of course we sisters share it together. Mother left, gritting her teeth. When I returned to the palace, I was carrying a large box, silver notes on top, with indescribable items hidden beneath. After returning, I summoned Consort Shu and Consorten, pointing it out to them. The sooner you use this, the more effective it is. Do as you see fit, use it if you want, discard it if you don't. This is your only chance. Consort Shu was the first to take one. If one concubine gets pregnant, the emperor would suspect her, but if several concubines do, he'll only doubt the imperial physician's incompetence. Count me in. Consorten gritted her teeth. You all have it easy, taking what you want, but recently, the emperor hasn't summoned me. If I get pregnant now, the timing won't add up. What's so hard about that? Go deliver a bowl of sweet dumplings to His Majesty tonight. That bastard's been craving them lately. Count me in too. Consorten also took one. That very night, she brought sweet dumplings to the emperor and coaxed him into visiting her palace. It wasn't until the 4th watch of the night that the 2 finally retired. I am heartbroken. Damn those concubines Shu and En. What tricks did you use to make the emperor battle with you until the 3rd or 4th watch of the night? My self-esteem has been deeply wounded, so I played a little trick and spread the emperor's preferences throughout the entire palace. This kept the emperor extremely busy. Today, noble consort Zhao's gift pleased him. Tomorrow, noble Lady Li's offering suited his taste. 2 days later, Lady Song. Lady Song was stopped at the door because the emperor was suffering from indigestion and had ordered that all gifts from concubines be refused. I felt regretful. Lady Song was truly foolish. She should have sent digestive pills instead. However, 3 days later, another concubine thought of this very idea. The beauties of the harem worked together in harmony. For this entire month, the emperor indulged in extravagance and debauchery, stuffing himself both above and below. Meanwhile, my pregnancy began to show. During the palace banquet, I felt nauseous and retched. And both Consort Shu and Consorten couldn't hold back either. In an instant, the entire palace banquet descended into chaos. After taking their pulses, the imperial physician immediately knelt to congratulate His Majesty, announcing that all 3 consorts were with child. The emperor was overjoyed. He was filled with pride, as if proving his own strength, exuding the arrogance of one who had conquered a harem. Thus, he failed to notice the tightly furrowed brows of the chief physician of the imperial hospital. He lavishly rewarded the harem, especially the concubines who were with child. Then, he left the palace in disguise. The night before he left the palace, he came to see me. Ah Feng, in my absence, the harem will rely on you to manage, and now that you're with child, you must put yourself first in all matters. Take good care of yourself. What nonsense are you spouting? You want me to manage the harem and take care of my health at the same time? Why can't you be both man and woman yourself? I softened my voice and said coyly. Your Majesty, won't you stay? Your concubine only wishes to be with you. The emperor's body stiffened slightly. Ah Feng, be good. The empire needs me. Have these women in the harem never seen a man before? They all throw themselves at me the moment they see me. My back is about to give out from all this. If I don't escape the palace soon, I'll probably die on these women's bellies. Me, no. Why did you take in so many concubines? Useless dog of a man. The emperor, afraid I might pester him further, hastily made an excuse and fled. I stared at his retreating figure and smiled. In my past life, the emperor claimed he and the fisher girl had endured countless hardships before returning to the palace. Therefore, he regarded the fisher girl as his benefactor, kin, and beloved. But what if the storm grew fiercer? Could they still weather the storms together, year after year? I'm deeply curious. I released a white dove. Lady Shu hung up lanterns. Lady An lit fireworks. We all claimed we were praying for His Majesty. His Majesty's incognito journey this time has lasted rather long. A full 9 months have passed without his return. The court officials transitioned from initial panic to establishing a smooth operational procedure, dividing responsibilities to keep the government functioning. The imperial harem remained peaceful too. With the emperor absent, all the concubines enjoyed unexpected leisure, their relationships becoming surprisingly harmonious. The virtuous consort and the peaceful consort successfully gave birth to 2 boys and 1 girl. Holding the child, I wept for joy. In my past life, I envied the fisherman's daughter. envied her for winning the emperor's deep affection. I envy that she alone in the entire palace could bear the emperor's child. I envy that in the long, lonely years of the deep palace, she would have a blood relative by her side. But I only envied her, I never thought of harming her. What truly displeased me. She looks down on us noble-born women while simultaneously scrambling into the lap of luxury, putting on airs of aloofness and accepting favors with feigned reluctance. Truly detestable. In her previous life, the emperor favored her and the child in her womb. This lifetime, the emperor already has 3 children. Let's see how her silver tongue can still beg for a lifetime of devoted love. On the day my imperial son turned 1 month old, the emperor has returned. I was at my dressing table when my hand paused mid-motion. How did he manage to come back alive? So hard to kill. I dressed up and went to see the emperor. He looked haggard and fearful, yet upon seeing us, he actually showed a joy akin to reuniting with old friends. Our foam, noble consort Shu, Anna. I almost couldn't return to see you all again. Exchanging glances with noble consort Shu and noble consort An, we each carried our children and rushed to the emperor's side. Swiftly pushing aside that fisher girl, Your Majesty, you've grown thinner, your concubine has missed you terribly. During your absence, I prayed for you every day, my lord, Your Majesty. Look, this is our child, see how much he resembles you. Back then, my mother deliberately sought out a tall, robust, and handsome man who bore an uncanny resemblance to the emperor. Now the child has reached his first month, that tender and adorable age when he truly does resemble the emperor, enough that everyone who sees him can't help but offer praise. The emperor was quite pleased. This is my child, a bit ugly, but my beloved consorts have grown more voluptuous, even more charming. Only after leaving did I realize the imperial palace is truly a celestial abode. I shall never again make incognito visits. The fisher girl was left neglected. She spoke coldly. Zhao Shen, now that you've returned to the palace, it's time for me to leave. We shall never meet again. Assuming an aloof demeanor, she turned and walked away without hesitation. The emperor remained silent. So did I. In my past life, I had been too hasty. Without waiting for the emperor to speak, I had rushed to question how a fisher girl dared to utter the Son of Heaven's name. The fisher girl's eyes brimmed with tears as she said she had always called out to the emperor this way. The emperor immediately rebuked me, saying with such a temper, did I truly think myself the mistress of the imperial harem? Apologized to Suyi this instant. He barked harshly, completely disregarding my dignity. He became her heroic savior. The two of them gazing at each other through misty eyes, lost in their tender affection. Humiliated, I became the laughingstock of the crowd. In this lifetime, they'll never get to use me as the villain or their stepping stone again. I put on a face of shock but dared not speak. Noble consort Shu lowered her eyes without a word. Noble consort An rolled her eyes and opened her mouth to curse, but I tugged her sleeve. She hastily raised her sleeve to cover her mouth, feigning terror. The emperor looked somewhat embarrassed. Our gathering helped him regain his royal dignity. Perhaps he suddenly remembered that he was not the wandering Zhao Shen, but the supreme ruler of a nation. Suyi, don't leave yet, wait for me. Wait for Zhen to change and freshen up before speaking with you. Zhu Suyi was clearly dissatisfied with this answer. No need, you're the son of heaven. While I'm just a fisherman's daughter, I know my place isn't here. Farewell. She spoke of leaving, yet made no move to depart. Her misty eyes alone remained fixed on the emperor with reluctant longing. The emperor's inner voice was slightly panicked. How annoying. What should I do now? Are these people dead? Couldn't a single one of them say a few good words to help me keep Suyi? I am the son of heaven, how could I possibly beg a woman? I rolled my eyes inwardly. In my past life, I diligently followed your inner voice in everything I did. You didn't hesitate when you killed me either, in this lifetime. Don't even think about using anyone again. During the emperor's absence, I've organized the palace rules thoroughly, handling affairs with proper procedures and acting according to regulations. The palace servants all followed protocol, attending to their respective duties without anyone stepping forward to say more. Everyone held their breath as they watched the emperor and Zhu Suyi's tormented love unfold, seeing that no one tried to stop her. Zhu Suyi gritted her teeth and stormed off in a huff, but just as she reached the doorway, she deliberately swayed and collapsed to the ground in a faint. The emperor rushed forward immediately. Suyi, how are you? Someone, quickly summon the imperial physician. The imperial physician arrived. He diagnosed that Zhu Suyi was with child. The imperial physician offered congratulations, yet his furrowed brows deepened. I, the noble consort, and consort An exchanged glances. Consort An discreetly gave a thumbs up, The noble consort adjusted the emerald hairpin in her coiffure. I think I also have a few green hairpins, tomorrow I'll wear them all over my head. The emperor was overjoyed. He held the slowly awakening Zhu Suyi in his arms, weeping with happiness. Suyi, did you hear? We're going to have a child, ours. Zhu Suyi smiled, then wept. This child cannot be kept. I am a daughter from a respectable family. Yet I've had an illicit affair with you, already a grave mistake. This child is an error, and I must not compound one wrong with another. Give me a bowl of abortifacient medicine. I must rid myself of it. The emperor held her tightly, his heart aching. Suyi, you cannot be so cruel. This is the child I've longed for most. I will give it a rightful name. I will marry you, I will make you my empress. But I'm just a fisherman's daughter. No one would accept me as empress. Besides, I fear these palace depths. All I want is to live out my days with my husband, just the two of us. If you cannot promise me that, then let me go. I will not let you go. If anyone dares object, I'll have them executed. He turned to look at us with eyes full of hatred. Me, what a jerk. This palace has not uttered a single word. If you slander this palace like this, then this palace will not hold back. I immediately said, Your Majesty, you are too selfish. How could you not consider Miss Zhu's situation? A young woman like her has disregarded her virtue to follow you, while you can make her your empress. This child must not be born. Once the child arrives, the discrepancy in timing will be undeniable proof of her premarital indiscretion. Even if you make her empress, both she and the child will be ridiculed by the world. How can you be so selfish? Do you truly wish for Miss Zhu to be mocked for the rest of her life? The emperor was dumbfounded. He snapped back to reality and instantly flew into a rage. I am the emperor. Who in this world dares to laugh at her? I looked at him with the eyes of someone staring at a fool. The noble consort was no exception. The virtuous consort didn't know what we were doing, but she tried to keep pace. Also looking at the emperor with an indescribable expression, the emperor suddenly slammed the table. What exactly are you all trying to do? I said, Your Majesty, when a prince is born, there are midwives. Imperial physicians watching over, palace maids and eunuchs attending, wet nurses and matrons taking care. After the birth, the child will be bathed by the imperial astronomers, recorded in the imperial genealogy by the Jade Register Office, and documented by the Office of Imperial Diaries. With so many people involved inside and out, are you planning to kill everyone in the world, or do you intend to hide Miss Zhu away, never letting her see the light of day again? It's clearly you who's jealous of Suyi and wants to harm her, the emperor roared. My voice was even louder than his. Your Majesty, this concubine bears no grudge against her. Why should I be jealous? Is she more beautiful than I? Does she come from a nobler family? Does she possess more grace and elegance? I surpass her in every way. Why would I be jealous of her? Because I love her. Ha 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 ha. Is his love some extraordinary treasure? In my past life, I did not love him. In this life, it's even more impossible, I said coldly. From the day I entered the palace, I knew I would have to share Your Majesty with my sisters. According to ancestral law, Your Majesty is destined to have 1 empress, 4 consorts, 9 concubines, 27 noble ladies, and 81 imperial wives. With so many sisters already in the harem, what difference does one more make? I would not be jealous because Your Majesty favors her. Instead, I would be happy that Your Majesty has found a beauty, but honest advice is hard to swallow. Since Your Majesty does not wish to hear it, I shall take my leave. You may make arrangements for Miss Zhu as you see fit. I turned and left with a flick of my sleeve. The noble consort shook her head with a sigh. Your Majesty, you've truly wronged the imperial noble consort. During your absence, it was her meticulous care that allowed this concubine to safely deliver the child. Had she been truly jealous, this concubine's child would not have survived. Your Majesty, this concubine shall take her leave now. The virtuous consort also heaved a long sigh. Your Majesty, after your departure, the entire harem has been harmonious, all thanks to the imperial noble consort's kindness, generosity, and impartial handling of affairs. If Your Majesty truly cherishes Miss Zhu, you should consider her reputation. The reputation of an ordinary woman is of utmost importance, let alone that of a nation's future empress. Ah, Miss Zhu, you'd best be careful. If you truly wish to become empress, you must not have any stains on your character. But now, 3 people in a row had said the same thing. The emperor was bewildered. Zhu Suyi was also at a loss. What should have been a joyous occasion had now become an awkward inconvenience. For 3 days straight, I avoided the emperor. Whenever he came to see me, I claimed to be unwell and unable to meet. He went to see Consort Shu and Consort An instead. The two of them then recounted my conduct in the harem during his absence. The emperor might truly feel he was wrong, yet he still doesn't understand. The child is already here, must we really abort it? Consort Shu said calmly. Though Miss Zhu has won His Majesty's favor, her family background is ordinary, her appearance unremarkable. The only virtue she can compete with is her moral character. Making Miss Zhu the Empress isn't something His Majesty can decide alone, it requires the approval of the people and the court officials. Consort An asked curiously, Your Majesty, when you proposed making Miss Zhu Empress in court, what did the ministers say? The Emperor's face darkened, his expression turning ugly. He never mentioned it, nor dared he mention it. I was well aware of what had been happening at court these past few days. The Emperor hadn't appeared for over 9 consecutive months. The ministers had grown accustomed to his absence and established their own operating procedures. The Emperor's sudden appearance disrupted their rhythm, to say the least. Eager to reclaim power, he scolded the elder ministers, rejected memorials, and reassigned officials. From the outset, he arrogantly emphasized imperial authority rather than expressing gratitude and proceeding gradually. The ministers were no pushovers either, invoking ancestral precedents and ritual codes to constrain the emperor. Between them, tensions flared to the point of irreconcilable opposition. In his previous life, the emperor had spent little time outside the palace, and upon his return, he swiftly reclaimed power without much resistance. This time around, his days of hardship had arrived. If he dared to propose making Zhu Suyi the empress now, the ministers would attack him until he issued a self-reproach edict. And he would have to apologize before the ancestors to settle the matter. The emperor left Consort Shu's palace with a darkened expression. He forced his way into my palace chambers, his face icy cold. I performed the proper courtesies, then turned to amuse the child. In this lifetime, my parents are alive and well. My sisters live in harmony, and I have a son to rely on. He has become utterly useless to me. The emperor sensed my aloofness. He said with difficulty, Ah Feng, I wronged you. I stopped him from continuing. I didn't want to hear a single word of that nonsense. The more humble he appears now, the more vicious he'll be when settling accounts later. I'm not ready to make a mortal enemy of him just yet. I'm waiting for the day when I can kick him while he's down. Your Majesty is never wrong. In my heart, Your Majesty could never be wrong. The one at fault is whoever gave Your Majesty the idea that this concubine is jealous. How unjustly I've been accused. I raised my sleeve to pretend to wipe away tears. It's been too long since I last performed before the emperor. My eyes are so dry, I simply can't cry. The emperor frowned. Perhaps my words had given him some comfort. Suyi is new here and doesn't understand palace etiquette. Ah Feng, don't take it to heart. You still occupy my thoughts. Plain robes, everything I do is for you. My dealings with her are mere pretense, but with you I share true heart-to-heart connection. You mustn't misunderstand me, wretched woman, a pair of wretched creatures. Kill them all. Using the excuse of holding the child, I naturally shook off the emperor's hand resting on my shoulder. I cleared my throat and said, Your Majesty need not be like this. This concubine has said before, I shall not be jealous no matter whom you favor. If you wish to make Miss Zhu the empress, as long as the court officials agree, I will respectfully welcome her into the palace without fail. However, before offering my counsel, there is one thing I wish to clarify. What is it about Miss Zhu that you love? The emperor was stunned. He fell silent, yet his heart was filled with thoughts. What do I love about Suyi? Her looks pale before the noble consorts, her talents fall short of the virtuous consorts, and her temperament lacks the vivacious charm of the serene consort. In beauty, lineage, or grace, she is indeed outshone at every turn. Yet she stood by me through adversity, took a blade for me, endured countless hardships on my behalf. Every consort in this harem nurses secret schemes. Only Suyi followed me when I possessed nothing. Ours is the bond forged through shared trials. He raised his eyes and declared, I cherish her unfeigned devotion, a sincerity I've never known within these palace walls. An emperor who slept his way through the 6 palaces could be this innocent. Hard to believe, yet somehow I feel he truly thinks this way. Perhaps what he says is true. The sisters in the palace, whether from noble families or official backgrounds, each have their own missions. Genuine sincerity is already a rare thing for us. Even if we offer our true hearts, would he dare to accept them? Not only would he refuse, but he would likely think we're overstepping and insatiable. He already held prejudices against women from noble families, and these prejudices prevented him from falling in love with any of us, only keeping us at arm's length. Moreover, does shared hardship truly equate to sincerity? That's nothing more than mutual dependence in times of helplessness. When people are hungry, they become simpler, but that doesn't mean they become purer. I shall see if their sincerity can withstand the test, since your majesty insists on making Miss Zhu the empress. I have two strategies. One is to abort the child and have a noble family adopt Miss Zhu as their daughter, so she can be rightfully established as empress. The other is to keep the child. There was once a concubine surnamed Zhu in the palace. When she passed away, it coincided with national mourning, so she was quietly buried without any fanfare. Later, the eunuchs forgot to report this matter. I discovered it earlier and originally planned to wait for your majesty's return to decide. But now, I believe this is a perfect opportunity. If Miss Zhu assumes the identity of that concubine, she'll gain both family background and legitimacy. The only drawback is her initial rank would be beauty, requiring gradual promotion over the years. Though this path is slower, taking several years, it's the most secure option and presents the least difficulties for His Majesty. As for the choice, I leave it to your majesty and Miss Zhu to discuss and decide for yourselves. The emperor departed with a heavy heart. Watching his retreating figure, I allowed a faint smile to curve my lips. If Zhu Suyi chooses to become the empress and abandon her child, this palace will make her regret it bitterly. If she chooses to start as a mere concubine, then she will fall right into this palace's hands. This princess will show her what the methods of those women in the palace truly mean. The emperor and Zhu Suyi had a quarrel. Zhu Suyi fled from the palace. Heavy rain poured from the sky as she cried out in utter despair, "Zhao Shen, you promised to clear all obstacles for me, yet you trusted them and abandoned our child. I will never forgive you, neither will our child. I'm leaving this place and never coming back." The emperor seized her and forcibly carried her back. "You belong to me, you're not going anywhere, your home is by my side." The two of them fought and bickered, crying and shouting, "I, Consort Shu." And Consort and held umbrellas and watched quietly from a distance. Consort Shu said coldly, "I got goosebumps all over." Consort and covered her eyes. "My eyes are going blind. How did His Majesty become like this? He wasn't like this before. Could it be, when we chased him and he fled? Did he hit his head and go stupid?" she asked in a whisper. I said lazily, "He's probably always been like this, but Zhu Suyi just brought out his true nature." I always felt that he and Zhu Suyi were the same kind of people. Both always think others are out to get them. In his world, they are the good people, and we are all the villains. When I engaged in marital relations with him, it was willingly degrading myself, behaving promiscuously, thinking only of carnal desires. When he and Zhu Suyi indulged in wild abandon under the open sky, it was simply following their heart's desires, honoring nature. When we fawned over him, it was out of greed for power. Revealing our base character, Zhu Suyi kept saying she didn't want this or that, yet all the finest treasures from the imperial palace ended up displayed in her chambers. Still, he believed her to be indifferent to fame and fortune, a woman of noble character. In my past life, I tormented myself over this. Now, I've come to understand, if the emperor finds me an eyesore, I'll simply remove him. In this way, my world would be filled only with people who look upon me favorably. This is the right path. No one knows how the emperor persuaded Zhu Suyi. She agreed to have the abortion. I was delighted to personally bring the imperial physician to prescribe her an abortion potion. This is Imperial Physician Song's abortifacient. Though his medicine is somewhat bitter, its efficacy is excellent and widely praised. This is Imperial Physician Zhao's prescription. The effects are milder and won't harm the body, but the process will take longer. If Miss Zhu chooses this medicine, she'll need to endure some pain. This is Imperial Physician Kong's formula. The effects are slightly stronger, but the process is quick. However, after taking it, she won't be able to serve His Majesty for at least 3 months. Zhu Suyi's face was as pale as frost. "Imperial consort, are you trying to scare me?" Ignoring her, I turned to His Majesty and said helplessly, "Your Majesty, please choose for Miss Zhu. Whatever I say now, I'm afraid Miss Zhu won't want to hear it." I walked behind the emperor and flashed Zhu Suyi a provocative smile. In her previous life, she had been like this before the emperor, using words of compromise, retreat, and helplessness to imply that I was aggressive and consumed by jealousy. This time, I'll repay her in her own coin. I just hope she can endure it. The emperor urged, "Suyi, choose one." Zhu Suyi's eyes welled up with tears. "Brother Shen, can't you see she's bullying me? If you truly care for me, you should bring me a proper prescription, not 3 different ones." The emperor frowned at me. I turned to look at the 3 imperial physicians. The 3 physicians said helplessly, "Our 3 approaches differ in emphasis, so the prescriptions we've written are different, but all are effective and beneficial to the young lady's health. If you insist on combining them into one prescription, It can certainly be done. Please wait a moment, miss. The imperial physician went to prepare a new prescription. A short while later, it was ready. Zhu Suyi was satisfied, and the palace maid went to brew the medicine. I had consort Shu take a look, and she nodded at me. I realized then that this prescription was both bitter to take and required a long treatment period. With the added restriction of abstaining from royal bedchamber duties for 3 more months, it combined all the worst aspects of various remedies. My efforts to improve the imperial physician's welfare had not been in vain. I was quite satisfied. Before long, the medicine was brewed and ready. Zhu Suyi took a sip and immediately spat it out. So bitter, she cried, looking utterly pitiful. The emperor weakly pleaded, Suyi, don't make a scene. I'm truly exhausted. In just a few short days, he began to show signs of exhaustion. Zhu Suyi dared not speak further, swallowing her grievances along with the bitter medicine. And soon the effects began to take hold. Drenched in cold sweat, she clutched her stomach on the bed, wailing in agony. The emperor cried out in alarm. Why is this happening? I said calmly, Your Majesty, all women go through this when giving birth. She had a miscarriage early in the pregnancy, which is easier than full-term childbirth. I lowered my head and kissed the child in my arms, but it was worth it. He is my little treasure. For him, everything is worth it. The emperor's eyes held complex emotions. Was it like this when the imperial concubines gave birth? But I wasn't there at the time. I've wronged them. As long as they behave properly in the future and don't cause trouble for Suyi, I'll be lenient with them. Feng, you've worked hard these past days. For once, he spoke like a decent human being. But I no longer need it. In my past life, Zhao Jiufeng was willing to be his lackey, hoping for just a word of approval, only to face constant suppression, doubt, and harsh criticism. In this life, what I want, I will take for myself. I will praise myself, love myself, and treat myself with sincerity. I smiled and said, Your Majesty, since your return to the palace, you haven't had a proper health examination. Today, several imperial physicians happen to be here. So let them examine you to ease my worries. The emperor hesitated. Imperial consort Shu said, Your Majesty, Miss Zhu will still need some time here. If anything arises, the palace maids will report promptly. We can conduct the diagnosis for Your Majesty in the side hall, so we won't be far away. The emperor agreed. Consort and affectionately supported him as if he were a fragile man. The emperor visibly relaxed, as though he had found a pillar to lean on. He left briskly, thus. He didn't see Zhu Suyi's resentful gaze. I understood her feelings. She was here, alone and helpless, enduring suffering, uncertain of the future. He only cared about himself, seeking nothing but his own peace and quiet. They had endured hardships together, once sharing each other's sorrows. But back in the opulent and splendid palace, he was the lofty emperor while she remained an obscure fisherwoman. The gap between them became glaringly apparent. In truth, that gap had always existed. It was merely overlooked before. Now, we've simply returned to our respective circles. Nothing more. The imperial physician examined the emperor thoroughly, from head to toe, inside and out. After the examination, he immediately furrowed his brows tightly. I promptly said, How is His Majesty's condition truly? Speak plainly. Both His Majesty and I will naturally take precautions hereafter. But if you conceal the truth and His Majesty inadvertently suffers further harm due to unawareness, the blame shall rest entirely upon you. The 3 imperial physicians immediately knelt on the ground. Your servants deserve death. We dare not speak the truth. The emperor seemed to realize something. With a darkened expression, he coldly commanded, Speak. The 3 physicians exchanged uneasy glances. The foremost one trembled as he spoke. Upon examining Your Majesty's condition, we discovered you had suffered an injury. I fear it may render you incapable of fathering heirs henceforth. The emperor was stunned. His expression was as if struck by lightning. He couldn't react for a long while. Stop your nonsense. We dare not. The 3 imperial physicians knelt on the ground, nearly scared to death. In truth, they had long known His Majesty was infertile, but previously, clinging to hope, they thought if by chance a concubine became pregnant, it would reflect poorly on their medical skills, so they dared not speak of it. But now, Your Majesty has suffered severe injuries below the waist, completely eliminating any remaining hope. If any of the imperial concubines were to become pregnant, it would truly be a glaring green hat placed upon Your Majesty's head. Thus, it must be said, today, for them, is indeed an opportune moment. The emperor's face was blank with confusion, but after a moment, realization seemed to dawn on him. Suyi, he had thought of it, if he could no longer father children. The child in Zhu Suyi's womb would be his last, But it was too late. The corners of my lips twitched upward briefly before I quickly suppressed the smile and followed. Consort Shu and Consort An lifted their skirts and chased after, afraid to miss anything. The 3 imperial physicians also hurried to follow. The closer they got to the main hall, the more distinct Zhu Suyi's piercing screams became. The midwife tried to comfort Zhu Suyi. "Just one more push and it'll be out," the emperor shouted. "No, yet." Zhu Suyi was startled and shuddered violently. The midwife cried out joyfully, "It's out, it's a male fetus, already 4 months along, what a pity." The emperor's steps faltered as he rushed into the inner chamber. He stared coldly at the midwife. "What did you just say? How many months, Your Majesty?" 4 months. "Can you tell the age of the fetus?" The 2 midwives exchanged a glance before answering honestly. "Reporting to Your Majesty, the length, weight, and facial features of a fetus differ with each month. Having delivered many babies, this humble servant can tell. The fetus in Consort Zhu's womb is over 4 months old." This servant couldn't be mistaken. The emperor closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, the fury in his gaze had turned to calm. "All of you, leave." The crowd, bewildered, gradually withdrew. The emperor added, "The 3 imperial physicians shall remain." How I wished he would have asked me to stay too. Alas, he did not. I walked away slowly. The noble consort stood shoulder to shoulder with me. The virtuous consort lingered several steps behind us. We all heard a furious roar erupt from the inner chamber. "Wretched slave! How much longer did you plan to deceive your emperor?" A faint smile played at the corners of my lips. "In this lifetime, I sent people to search for Zhu Suyi, but she couldn't be found. It was as if she lived in a hidden utopia. A place whose gates only the emperor could open. I could only focus my efforts on the emperor, to delay the moment when the emperor would meet Zhu Suyi. For over a month before he left the palace, he traveled and enjoyed the scenery. I waited until he was far enough away, unable to return in time, before ordering the assassination attempt. But the emperor was truly hard to kill. We fought with all our might, yet only managed to inflict a single wound on his lower body. He drifted to a fishing village, where Zhu Suyi saved him. After recovering from his injuries, he quietly returned to the capital with Zhu Suyi. Along the journey, they faced countless hardships and dangers, and amidst it all, affection quietly blossomed between them, leading to an inevitable entanglement of fate. I imagine the emperor must have been overjoyed at that time. A man with injured lower body most enjoys proving his virility by conquering women, thereby regaining his self-esteem. Zhu Suyi's ability to conceive surely filled him with immense delight. This was the ultimate testament to his undiminished masculine prowess. But today, the words of the imperial physician and the midwife shattered his pride into dust. He was nothing but a pitiful wretch stripped of power, robbed of his virility, and crowned with the shame of a cuckold. The pure and flawless love he had cherished in his heart turned out to be nothing more than a deceitful, scheming whore. There was no need for us to lift a finger. He would trample her into the mud himself. What happened after we left that day? I pieced together the truth from the words of a few palace servants. The emperor had the royal physician confirm the gestational age of the fetus, then severed its fingers to perform a blood drip test on bones, trying to verify if the child was his own. But he failed. I think he might have gone mad. Testing kinship by dripping blood into bones was merely a folk belief. How could he possibly believe in it? He must have truly reached the end of his rope, like a trapped beast. Zhu Suyi was demoted to a palace maid before she could even complete her postpartum confinement. The emperor kept her by his side, watching her every day, yet cruelly tormenting her. He would casually knock things over, forcing Zhu Suyi to kneel and clean up the mess. He stepped on her hands, and only when she cried out in pain did he feel satisfied. He ordered her to grind ink, then splashed it all over her, dipping his brush in the ink, staining her body to write. Laughing heartily all the while, he made her serve the dishes, then flung the food in her face and forbade her to wash it off. After seeing so much, only then did I realize how perverse a person could be. The emperor, frustrated in his harem, also vented his temper wantonly in the imperial court. Seizing this wave of madness, he forcefully dealt with several powerful ministers and reclaimed some authority. These matters, had he not been here, I would have handled them myself, if they could be resolved in his generation, sparing me the trouble of dirtying my hands later. That would be for the best. Only when he had nearly finished did I begin to take action, coincidentally encountering Zhu Suyi. By then, Zhu Suyi had already become haggard and emaciated, reduced to nothing but skin and bones. She no longer cared whether she lived or died. When she saw me, she didn't bow but instead curled her lips into a mocking smile. "You women of the inner palace are truly disgusting. Only capable of these underhanded schemes, I may not be your match, but I still find you utterly repulsive. When she first entered the palace, she possessed 7 parts of beauty. But now the torment had reduced her to merely 4, yet her eyes shone with startling brilliance. I recalled a certain illness whose symptoms included bright, bulging eyes and a swollen neck. Her condition seemed to match all these signs. I have never wronged you, yet you've targeted me at every turn since entering the palace. Why do you hate me so much? Ha, why should I tell you? She wore a secretive smile, exuding the smugness of one who believes themselves the only sober person in a drunken world. I thought about it. It wasn't as if I absolutely needed to know. If she dies, there will be no more secrets. I laughed and said, if you don't want to say it, then never say it. Whoever speaks up is a dog. Zhu Suyi widened her eyes, a breath stuck in her chest, neither rising nor falling, looking quite uncomfortable. She snorted coldly, turned her head, and walked away. I said, I know who the person you've been secretly involved with is. Her footsteps halted, always resorting to such underhanded schemes, slandering a woman's virtue to suppress your opponent. I despise people like you the most. I won't believe a single word you say. I smiled. Should I call you Miss Zhu, or Miss Zhu Suyi, or Zhu Suyi? She turned her head, her expression grim. Nonsense. Ha 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 ha. I wasn't certain at first, but your reaction has confirmed it for me. I recall the late empress of the previous dynasty was surnamed Zhu. When the dynasty fell, her clansmen protected the fleeing imperial family, changed their names, and disappeared without a trace. Who would have thought you'd be a descendant of that imperial consort clan? She turned pale with shock, then gave a strange smile. You're such a loyal dog to Zhao Shen. But do you know what he says about you? He says you're all beauty with no brains. That you're arrogant and extravagant yet completely unaware of it. If it weren't for needing your family, he wouldn't want to see a fool like you for even a single day. Knowing how he treats you, you still work for him. I reached out and slapped her without hesitation. Pity, I could only slap her once. If given the chance, I'd slap her face into a pig's head. I said coldly, the emperor is my husband and my sovereign. I will never allow you to trample upon his dignity like this. I turned and walked away, but after a few steps, I suddenly felt dizzy. Before I hit the ground, a figure swiftly emerged from the dark bamboo grove and caught me tightly in their arms. Jiufeng, Jiufeng, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have been prejudiced against you. I was truly wrong. I'm truly despicable. How could I humiliate my own noble consort for the sake of a woman who betrayed me? I deserve to die. Hearing the emperor's voice, I allowed myself to faint with relief. The emperor indeed treated Zhu Suyi differently. He tormented Zhu Suyi by day, yet at night he would secretly follow her, not returning to his own palace until he'd seen her safely back to her cramped and narrow maidservants' quarters. I knew this very well, which is why I waited here for Zhu Suyi. My efforts were not in vain. I was unconscious for 3 days. This was the exact dosage I had calculated. 3 days were enough for the emperor to uncover the truth. He discovered that Zhu Suyi's real name was Zhu Suyi. They were remnants of the previous dynasty's royal family, hiding in a fishing village for decades. When the emperor accidentally stumbled upon them, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to restore the former dynasty. They wanted to use Zhu Suyi to confuse the royal bloodline and seize the throne without shedding blood. Zhu Suyi initially thought the same way, but after entering the palace, she began to harbor different thoughts. She no longer wished to be controlled by the remnants of the previous dynasty. She knew all too well that they were bound to fail. When that time came, they could easily escape, while she, left alone, would surely perish within the depths of the palace. She wanted to truly take control of her own destiny. But as for how to do it specifically, she planned to assess the situation and let things take their course. If the emperor was powerful, she would use him to deal with us, bear his child herself, rise to supremacy alone, and enjoy boundless wealth and honor. If the imperial consorts were dominant, she could conveniently use that as an excuse to eliminate this child, cutting off future troubles once and for all. She could also exploit the emperor's guilt to suppress the consorts, elevate herself to a higher position, then gradually conceive again and secure her place as the unchallenged empress. She had calculated everything perfectly. The only thing she hadn't accounted for was the emperor's infertility. All her hopes and dreams turned to dust. The emperor was absolutely furious. He had always believed his love with Zhu Suyi was genuine, never imagining that from the very first day he was stranded in that fishing village, it had all been a calculated scheme. Now, he loathed Zhu Suyi with every fiber of his being. He despised those remnants of the former dynasty even more. He had sent troops to exterminate them, only to find they had long since relocated. The emperor was now in a state of uncontrollable fury. He found fault with everyone. The ministers dared not provoke him, and the imperial concubines dared not approach him. So he took out his frustrations on Ju Suyi in increasingly creative ways. In his rage, an idea actually came to him. He decided to make Zhu Suyi his empress and have her send a signal to summon those people. Those people didn't know Zhu Suyi had already miscarried. They must be coming to laugh at his misfortune. But when they arrive, he'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Fearing I might misunderstand, he came specifically to explain things to me. This was the first time I'd seen him since waking up. In just a few short days, he'd grown so thin his face was barely recognizable. A Feng, don't misunderstand, I was just trying to lure the snake out of its hole. Once I've dealt with those remnants of the previous dynasty, I will make it up to you properly. I will make you my empress, and Ju Suyi will be at your mercy. Perhaps I was truly wrong. My mother's judgment was indeed better than mine. Noble women may be affected, but propriety and shame are carved into their bones. That wanton Ju Suyi is no match for our Feng. I fell silent, wanting very much to offer a word of advice. Things aren't always black and white. Is it possible that everyone has both good and bad sides, and it just depends which one is dominant at the moment? But then I thought better of it. The emperor and I could never sit down and have a genuine heart-to-heart conversation in this lifetime. So be it, let everything come to an end. On the day of the coronation ceremony, the emperor wouldn't allow me to come and urge the bridal makeup. Ju Suyi's face was deathly pale, draped in oversized wedding robes. Being manipulated by palace attendants like a puppet, her entire being exuding the ashen decay of a setting sun. When she saw me, an astonishing light burst forth from her eyes. Zhao Jiufeng, have you come to mock me? If I had your birthright and family background, I would never have lost to you. I would have ensnared Zhao Shen completely, leaving you to suffer alone in the palace for the rest of your days. I didn't lose, don't you dare come to laugh at me. Oh, ha, you're mistaken. Your only victory lies in your lowly origins. Had you been a noblewoman from an aristocratic family, His Majesty would have despised you all the same. With looks like yours, you'd struggle just to enter the palace, living a second life. I've always been curious about the emperor's thoughts. Why does he dislike noble women from powerful families? Why does he think we're all wicked? Later, I learned from an old palace maid that the emperor was harshly scolded by his mother when he was young. His mother came from a powerful family and had great expectations for him, yet the emperor was of mediocre talent, without a single outstanding quality. His mother, the imperial consort, constantly compared him to others in an effort to spur him on. One day his archery would fall short of some noble's son, the next day his calligraphy would be bested by another scion of an aristocratic family, the next day during recitation, he again couldn't match the memorization skills of a certain noble scion. He was constantly suppressed, spending his entire childhood and adolescence in humiliating obscurity. But he was fortunate. His mother proved remarkably capable, fighting her way through all obstacles to propel him to high status. Even more remarkably, as soon as he ascended the throne and his mother selected his consorts for him, she passed away. No one could restrain him anymore. He could indulge his true nature without restraint. The more outstanding we concubines, chosen by the late Empress Dowager, proved to be, the more inferior he felt. Only by suppressing us could he regain his self-esteem. So he belittled and looked down on us. Seeing us running around him in confusion brought him immense joy. Zhu Suyi's appearance was redemption for him. She knew nothing of the palace, possessed no talents, and relied entirely on him. He controlled her, dominated her, and took deep pleasure in it. Occasionally, she might prick at him. But he savored even that, for everything remained firmly in his grasp. If Zhu Suyi were like the rest of us, he would discard her just as callously. Zhu Suyi's eyes were rimmed with red. Zhao Jiufeng, I hate you. If only you were dead, everything would be better. The corners of my lips curled slightly as I lifted her gaunt face with my fingers. Miss Zhu, you're ill. Even I can see it. Has His Majesty not noticed? Your beloved, whom you pine for day and night, cares less for you than the enemy you loathe with every fiber of your being. What use is such love to you? Moreover, what exactly do you hate about me? What right do you even have to hate me? The one who got you pregnant was a remnant of the previous dynasty's royal family. The one who forced you to abort was His Majesty, and the one who abandoned you without a second thought was also His Majesty. The only thing I've ever done to you was uncover your true identity. You don't dare hate them, yet you dare hate me. Is it because you're hypocritical and weak? You don't dare hate those far stronger than you, only daring to hate someone like me who seems easier to bully. Is it because you know you're weak and incompetent? and can only vent your hatred on another woman like yourself. TCH, what a pitiful creature. But there's no point in saying any of this to you. After today, you'll be dead, after this incident. His Majesty has come to realize that women from noble families like us are the most reliable. Your Majesty will make me his queen. I am the only woman destined to stand by his side. And you will die. Ju Suyi lunged at me in fury, but the palace maids on either side held her back firmly. I want you dead. You wretched wench, I want you dead. I raised my eyes to meet hers with deliberate provocation. This queen is the true victor, seeing the fire in Ju Suyi's eyes. I departed with satisfaction. The grand ceremony commenced. The emperor appeared in the square, leading Ju Suyi by the hand. Among the crowd sat some who clearly did not belong. Their faces were darkened by years of fishing and hunting under the sun. Though dressed in new clothes and displaying courteous manners, their etiquette was merely a temporary veneer, not the innate elegance ingrained in nobility. Their eyes gleamed as they gazed at the emperor, a subtle smile playing at the corners of their lips. As ceremonial music swelled, the emperor raised his hand. Suddenly, the soldiers standing behind them silently raised their axes and cleaved downward with a swift, brutal motion. Blood splattered everywhere, the severed heads still wearing eerie smiles as they fell. Ju Suyi was terrified. Clutching her head and screaming, she threw herself into the emperor's arms. Brother Shen, save me. The emperor, dazed, instinctively reached out to catch it, yet what he caught was not just a warm embrace, but also the cold blade of a dagger. Ju Suyi's face was smeared with blood, her smile radiant. She swept past the emperor, her maddened laughter directed at me. I won, the victory is mine. What I can't have, you shall never obtain. The next instant, her mouth fell open, her body was pierced by multiple blades, collapsing heavily to the ground. The emperor survived, though gravely wounded. He knew his time was running short. Summoning me and his ministers to his bedside, he gave instructions for his final affairs one by one. He named me as his empress, and declared my son the crown prince. He entrusted the young prince to several ministers and had me govern from behind the curtains. Then, he gazed at me with reluctant affection in his eyes. The court officials withdrew, holding our son. I sat beside him and watched over him. Perhaps, when a man is near death, his words are kind. At this moment, a sudden surge of paternal love awakened within him, and he struggled to lift his fingers to caress the child's cheek. Alas, I cannot watch him grow up. I regret so much I was not a good father. It doesn't matter, Your Majesty, you were never meant to be a father in the first place. My tone was indifferent, a faint smile playing at the corners of my lips. He froze. What do you mean? I bent down, casually covering his nose, and whispered in his ear, Your Majesty, you weren't rendered infertile after your injury. You've never been able to conceive. You're a natural eunuch, didn't you know? He struggled desperately. You're lying. Consort and consort Shu. Oh, those two, Your Majesty. Haven't you noticed how close our pregnancy dates were? Even our children's birthdays are just days apart. The emperor's eyes widened, tears welling up as he gritted his teeth in fury. Bastards, a bunch of bastards. Suyi, my Su, Yi. He struggled with great effort, trying to rise, but instead spat out a mouthful of blood before collapsing stiffly back onto the bed. He was dead. His eyes remained open in death. The bed curtains stirred without a breeze. A chill slowly seeped into his flesh. I took half a step back, staring at him coldly. Your Majesty, you still see everything in black and white. If we're bad, then your plain robes become good. If plain robes are bad, then we become the good ones again. Actually, we are who we are, always have been. If you want sincerity, you must offer sincerity in return. There's no such thing in this world where you mistreat and humiliate me, yet I still love and adore you. If there is, it must be a scam. If there's a next life, we'll settle the score then. I carried the child in my arms and walked out, loudly announcing the emperor's death. The crowd knelt and wailed in grief. I gazed at the heavy setting sun, yet felt that the good days had only just begun. The palace's intricate power struggles had come to an end. The deceit and treachery of the previous dynasty have begun, and at last, I have the chance to step onto the battlefield of power. This realm, here I come, kneel before me, all of you.